Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CM Mentors podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My co-host each week's Kyle Grandel. What's up, man?
Hey, Matt. Good to see you again, and thanks to the listeners for tuning in. It's been an interesting few weeks here. We're enjoying some lovely. Well, it was warm, but the weather's not too bad here now in Illinois. Had some nasty storms come to the Midwest, though. How are things down south?
Very, very wet. We still didn't have a fence from the hurricane that blew down. It was nice, hot weather, waiting on we call it 811 utility locates to come in. And we had all of them come in except electrical. Kept waiting on them. And so finally had a crew out to build our fence yesterday, and it was pouring down rain on them. So I knew I could build a fence, but I knew with everything else, like doing podcasts and stuff like that, I would never get a fence built. So here we are.
Well, and here we are picking on electricians again, so it's probably time to just get started before we go off the rails.
I was setting you up for something, but I'll let you. Well, you get a pass this week.
All right. Well, I guess with that being said, we'll jump right into it. So we do have another awesome guest. Really excited about this season. We have Jared Agee with a very large food and beverage manufacturer. Super excited to have him on board here this week. Senior manager in project support and analysis, comes to us Southern Illinois University, so not too far from where I'm staying nowadays. As well with a master's in public admin and policy analysis, and then also Missouri State University architecture and mechanical design. Had some great experience with projects as well as international speaking. So super excited to welcome him on.
Thank you.
Hey, Jared. Welcome, man.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, man. We're going to start something fresh this week. We were talking about fan mail, and we have got 0 bits of fan mail when it came to our word association game. So I'm kind of poking fun at our producer Alex in the background right now. So this week we're going to do a quick rapid fire get to know you segment right from the get go, and then we'll get into your background and learn. This kind of get to know you segment. So just kind of rapid fire. Don't have to think too hard or whatever, but. When you're on the job site, what's your favorite way to unwind or recharge?
You said when I'm on the job site or off the job site?
When you're off the job site.
Oh, off the job site. I think family time's always great, but I tend to bring a lot of work home with me. Not necessarily. Not necessarily the work, but just the job. I like to do my own construction activities and things around the house. So that's kind of how I unwind, is just kind of keep doing it, but for a different owner.
And it's more fun when it's for yourself, right? I mean, you don't necessarily have a deadline maybe, and a little bit lower pressure. And
my boss, she says I have a deadline.
It comes out.
Yeah, it's definitely a deadline, but you try your best, right?
If you could have any tool or piece of equipment named after you, what would it be?
Any tool or piece of equipment. I mean, there's been so many just really amazing things that I've seen. Like the first time I saw a Caterpillar gator doing some civil work, that was pretty neat. That'd be a pretty cool thing to have named after you. Pretty specialized piece of equipment.
What's the gator?
It's like a big rototiller. So like when you have expansive clay or you have a lot of water in your soil, you can add in amendments to the soil to increase the compressive strength and so forth of the soil.
It's like adding mixing lime in.
Yeah, it's a very specialized piece of equipment, right? And you bring it in, and it's the first time we used one, it was very interesting because everybody thought it was in an inner ring suburb of St. Louis, and everybody thought there was a giant fire because they saw this white cloud of dust. But yeah, it was just tilling in lime, right?
That's cool. What's your go-to habit that helps you start the day right?
I like to go over everything that I want to get accomplished in the day, right? So I use kind of a 5-3-1 approach. What's the big thing that I want to try to get done today? What are 3 kind of medium-sized things, and then 5 small things? And I kind of plan my day, look over it, make sure that everybody's aligned with my schedule. And then on Mondays, I usually plan my week and make sure that we're good to go.
I try to do the similar kind of 5-3-1, and I'm lucky if I get the number 1 done, to get 2 of the 3 things done, and 5s are wish lists.
Yeah,
How it feels anyway. Most days, whenever phone's blowing up and everything else. But
absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, Jared, is that a pretty formal thing? I mean, do you use is there an app, or just as far as the system that you use for that, or is it just more of a mental preparation for the day, or kind of what's your system there?
Well, I'm, like you can probably tell from my job title, I'm very much a policy and a sort of procedure, like scholastic person. So I've looked at a lot of these different things, and I've tried to use different apps. And what I've kind of learned is it's best to just kind of do it in my head, and like keep that in my mind that this is what I'm going to do. And then with my team, usually I'll meet up with them virtually in the morning and say, hey, this is what we're going to do today, or this is what I think we should do today. What's your feedback? What kind of blockers are you looking on getting your work done? And just kind of go through that informally. I tried the formal part, and I think everybody should try the formal aspect of it, just because it builds those behaviors. But after a while, you got to get away from that and stop wasting your time doing that.
I've tried all kinds of apps and everything else, and I end up just going back to an old-fashioned notebook, like paper, pen, and jot it down and get after it.
Yeah, and mine's a hybrid. I've just got a notes thing in my iPhone. It's just the key points in general I want to hit on, and so I just review it in my head, but I try to go through it. So
I'm a big put it into my email, and there's been all sorts of email tactics that I've used. The what do they call it? The net zero inbox or whatever it is. And that's kind of hard to do. And, getting things done, I've used that, and Pomodoro, all these different ways of trying to do it. And ultimately it just comes back to seeing what you got going on for the day, setting your top priority, knowing that that's what you need to try to do. And you're going to put out fires along the way. And hopefully you have enough time to fight fire and take a step forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've done all the GTD, getting things done. I went down that path for a while, and I did really try to inbox zero, and I dedicated 3 weeks of my life of every spare moment of between meetings and between this, we got 5 minutes to go in there and just start getting rid of emails and getting it down. Mm-hmm. I worked through probably 8,000 emails. And now inbox zero means inbox 100. I always I try to get it down, but it always sits 100, 150, and you knock it down. As soon as you knock it down, you're back up again. But
I was in the same boat. And then I had a boss one time that his policy was on January 1st, he came into the office and he deleted everything in his inbox. And I asked him about it. I was like, first off, we can do that. That's acceptable. And then second is what's your plan with this? And he said, I do this every year. And he said, around the holidays, things are not really that big of a priority. It's hard to get people in the office or, on the site, they're taking vacations and all these different things. And he said, if it comes down to it and I haven't had time to deal with it around the holidays, they'll ask me for it again. But I really got to purge all this and start clear. And so this year I did that on January 1st, and then I did it on July 1st again too, because I've got lots of items. And then I try to keep it, inbox zero if I can.
I saw somebody, and I just haven't had the cojones to do it, but when they had a week long out of office, reply, they're on a week and a half vacation or something like that, basically put a note in there that says when I get back, I'm deleting all emails I received during my PTO. If it's important, email me again on, whatever date I return. And it was and their philosophy was well, one, either it got handled while I was gone, I don't even think about it or worry about it, or two, if it's urgent or if I still need to worry about it, ping me again. I'm not going to go my first 3 days back to process, a week and a half worth of emails. So that's interesting.
I know a guy who did that as well, and he was very successful at it, but he took it to another step. He assigned a delegate to manage his stuff while he was gone, and he put in the email, you need to go to this person because when I come back, I'm going to delete everything. And so what ended up happening is it went to this other delegate that handled the fires, right? Mm-hmm. And the things he couldn't handle they had like a 30-minute touch base when the guy got back, and he was like instantly informed of everything that was going on. There was no spending 3 days reading through emails to find out that it got solved 2 days later and all of that stuff. It was like 30 minutes of knowing exactly what it is that you needed to do and then getting to work.
Might be a new company policy coming here, Alex.
We need to put together an email management course for construction managers. It's such a time suck.
I mean, how many times have you guys read an email and it's like paragraphs and paragraphs trying to explain what the situation is, and you read it, you know, when you're coming back in, you took the afternoon off for family, or you took a couple days off, you come back, you read the whole email and you're thinking, man, I need to address that. And then you go 2 emails down and it's resolved, right? Yeah. Like you just wasted 10 minutes of your time going through it, trying to figure out what you're going to do about it and so forth. And it's not an issue.
The biggest hack I've done is set my Outlook so it sorts by thread. So if I come back, because I mean, a lot of times too, I mean, even if you take an afternoon off within an hour, right? If you don't check your email, if you're not on it, you know, there could be all these messages, and if you're reading them and reading them and reading them and reading them, and you're catching up, because usually you start from like the oldest, come back to the newest, right? And then you realize, like, I didn't need to worry about any of that; it was a non-issue. But if you can filter by thread and then read the oldest first and kind of work backwards, that's been my biggest hack on emails.
So when I check my email when I come back from vacation, I came back a couple of weeks ago. I read them in reverse order, right? So that you know what's currently happening. Every single time I read them in reverse order, and I read it once and then I delete it, you know, and if it's something that I need, I'm pretty sure my deleted items last for like 30 days or 60 days. If I haven't needed it in 30 or 60 days, I'll have to go find it.
I don't delete anything, but I've got a folder called done. And when I'm done with it, I just drag it over to done. And that way, like, at least the anxiety in the back of my head is it's not gone. It's there, but it's out of sight, out of mind. And then I used to like file my emails by project and then by sub-project and I used to spend so much time doing that. So now it just goes to done, and I know if I ever need to go find it, because what I would end up doing is I couldn't find it anyway, even though I knew what project it was in or whatever. So I still would go to the search bar and search by a keyword and find what I was looking for. So now I just do that and just say all emails, and it goes right to where I need to go anyway. So
what's the benefit of done over like using the archive, like archiving it?
I don't know how the archive button works, and like for me,
so I think if you just hit archive, it goes to an archive folder, and then you don't see it in your inbox anymore, but you can still search for it, right?
It's probably the same thing. I'm probably going the long way to do what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just thinking, then you don't have to drag it and move it, right?
Well, I set up a rule. I probably went the way hard part. I didn't know what archive meant. I didn't know if it was like I had to call my IT support to pull it out of the archive or what. Like, I mean, I've been using Outlook for a decade and a half, right? And I still don't know how it works. Like, you know, no one properly gets trained on this stuff. I mean, speaking of no one get trained on anything. Hey. And so I made a custom rule in Outlook where if the group by a thread, if I click it and hit a button that says done, it takes the whole thread, it marks them all as red. If there's any flags, it marks the flags as checked off, and it files it to done. So it like just one click, it wipes that whole thread clean. Oh, and wow. I know it's all there, and it's probably the same as archived, it's probably just taking up more space on our server, but like, I don't know. But again, I just made up that rule because I never really trained on Outlook, you know, just kind of, go to emails, here's your new tool, you know, and then when you're 23 years old and fresh out of college and don't know anything, you just figure it out as you go. So, yeah. The next question, man, I like this conversation. This is a brand new segment we haven't done before, but if you could instantly master any new construction skill or trade, what would it be?
Instantly master. Boy, you're stumping me on that one.
You've already got them all mastered, huh?
No, definitely. I wish.
There's so much out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to know. I wish I could master modularization. Like I could really understand how to take construction and modularize a lot of what we're doing nowadays. I think there'd be a huge time savings. Yes. I've worked on some projects in the northern United States, and weather is a big factor, right? Yeah. And I haven't worked up there enough to see how this would impact it. But, you know, you look at some of these places where you don't have a lot of time to work outside, you know, interior work. Yeah, you understand that. But like the speed of construction, if you could put it together in a factory and put it on site, I wish there was a good way of being able to do that. And I know, you know, we're doing a lot of that with SIP panels and cross laminated timber, like trying to speed up construction and so forth. But it just seems like if you could master that would be a gold mine.
I've never done, I actually did this after the first episode, but Alex, can you look up, this is a cool new toy I have, Alex in the background. Hey, Alex, can you look up how long it took them to build the San Antonio Riverwalk Hilton for the World's Fair? It's, you know what I'm talking about, where they put together so they had the World's Fair in like 90 days, and they basically stacked a 20-story building or something like that, basically in Lego blocks. It was plug and play. They built it all in the yard. I mean, it was all the way down to the bed sheets on the bed and you know, the alarm clocks on the nightstand, and they literally just stacked them up like Lego blocks. And they built the whole thing. I think they had like 120 days to construct it, and they built it, literally stacked it together, and had guests in the rooms in like 100 days. So like even beat the schedule. It was kind of a crazy thing, but you know, that was in like 1967 or something, and you know, all these years later, we're still like, yeah, that was cool. We're not gonna do that ever again. I mean, some people are, but it hasn't really taken off, you know?
Well, it amazes me, like, you know, when we were talking earlier, and this is a big issue, is like competency and like actual training on what you're doing and the skill that goes into being a tradesperson nowadays, right? My neighbor right now is having a patio cover put on right now, and this guy's cutting compound rafters on the ground and going up there, and they're fitting perfectly, you know, just amazing. And I look at that and I think I'd spend 2 days like trying to calculate this, and he's just down there with a circular saw cutting these things. And we're losing that skill to some degree, you know, as like tradespeople move out of it and so forth, you know, with the baby boomers kind of moving out of it and so forth. So I just think that if we could do something that was modularization, where we could replicate it in one location, and it didn't require a whole lot of skill that is learned over time. You know, you could bring that 23-year-old person that came out of school, or the person fresh out, and they could be an apprentice and just start learning to put these things together. It would save us a lot of time, and maybe we could keep the same level of quality.
There's a ton of data too that it's safer. I mean, if you're working in a controlled environment, you're working in a factory, right? I mean, you can look at, a construction site, it's just a dangerous place because you're up on ladders, you're doing this, you're working overhead, you're not in you're bent over, you're scooped over, and all these sort of things. And it's, you know, you're working in a controlled factory situation. It's a safer process.
Yeah.
What did Alex say here? He said that the Hilton was 21-story hotel, 35-ton prefabricated guest rooms, built off-site, shafts built at an average of 1 foot per hour.
Wow.
A lot of numbers. They were cranking it out, though.
Well, and the modularization thing is super interesting in the industrial world. I'm seeing more and more projects bringing on, I should say larger projects typically, bringing on, you know, prefabricated piping skids, or, you know, maybe even some electrical, some duct banks, or even bringing in a modularized building, doing a building ground up. But now there's typically, of course, still connection points, still tie-ins, still all those things that have to be done in the field by hand. But it seems like it's becoming more of an interest in the industry, and people are trying to get more creative. So Jared, it will be really interesting to see what happens in the industry in the next 10 years, to your point, to supplement this trade shortage issue that we're coming up on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all understand that like standardization of how we work has huge benefits. And then if we can modularize that as well and just make standard units, like if you're needing a boiler system, if you can prepackage all of that together, skid it and ship it to site, and then just plug in the black box, you can do that pretty quick. And I think that's something that we're kind of figuring out now, in the industry. And hopefully that'll be something that really takes off.
Yeah.
Last question. I'm going rogue here. What's your favorite trade and why?
Oh man.
That's one right answer.
Well, I can tell you at one point in my life, elevator installers were my favorite because on the prevailing wage scale, they always got
and they always take Fridays off.
It was like, if I could just carry a shovel for the elevator installer, this would be a great gig. I don't know. I've always been surprised at the level of knowledge and like how different trades, and when you get it in different levels, look at things. I've ran around with some residential electricians, and they do a great job and so forth. And then you talk to one of their commercial buddies who says, well, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I do commercial. And then you get into some of these industrial ones, like the people that work on the nuclear power plant. They have a lot of knowledge, right? And a lot of skill in what they're doing. So I think being an electrical contractor, even though it's maybe not real popular, would be an interesting thing to do. Be a Sparky.
Speaking Kyle's love language right now.
Yes. Sorry, Matt, but it sucks to suck, So.
And I think automation, you're going to see more and more buildings and so forth that have that IFT and, more control circuits and so forth ran. I think that's probably a great place to be right now.
Yeah, well, and just to really know a quick point on what you said there, Jared, about the electricians. It is almost, I don't know if ironic's the right word, but electrical world and residential, commercial, industrial, completely different worlds.
Yeah.
And just because you can do one of them doesn't mean you know how to do the other ones, or vice versa. They're just totally different worlds, just in efficiencies and how it's done. Obviously, materials, the way things are installed, the code even. I mean, there's so much differences to it that, it's kind of, you become an expert really in what you do, typically in one of those areas.
Yeah.